guys, welcome back to The Bright Side. Macy here, the Bright Side Girl, and today we're doing my May audiobook wrap up. Just in case you missed it, I have a May reading wrap up that was up yesterday that I'll link up here in the card, so you can click that little eye and it will take you to the video, or you can click down below in the description. I only read 3 books physically, but I listened to 6 audiobooks. We had a crazy month, like I mentioned yesterday, with vet trips and friends coming to visit and cleaning and vacations and all that kind of stuff. So I didn't read physically as much as I wanted, but I still did basically average on my listening to, because I had a lot of driving, and also I listened to a lot while I clean and cook and garden and all of that stuff. So I still hit my average of 6 books this month. I started off the month doing the Scallywagathon, which was the worst readathon I've ever done for my own personal reasons. I had a friend in town and I just thought that I could push through and do it, and I couldn't. So I only wound up listening to 2 books while she was here. I will also put a link for Scallywagathon, the reading vlog, because I posted a week-long reading vlog despite the fact that I did a terrible job. So you can click that again and watch that vlog if you're interested, and just, you know, a week in my life of reading. So the first book that I listened to was Stardust by Neil Gaiman. This was narrated by Neil Gaiman, which I love. So far, I love when the authors narrate their own books, because they know what they want them to sound like, and if they have any talent at all, they do a great job. Neil is one of my favorite narrators of all time, regardless of it being his books. I think he should narrate other people's books. He has the most soothing voice. He just understands the characters. The way that he talks is just amazing, and I know I'm not alone on that. I loved this book. This is my favorite Neil Gaiman book so far. I think I've read 4 or 5 now. The first one being a total disaster, the next 2 being pretty good, and this one being amazing. So this one was also turned into a movie, which I watched a few years ago before I knew that it was a book, and I absolutely loved the movie as well. I don't know if I would have loved the movie if I'd read it first and then watched it, even though personally I felt like they were pretty close as far as adaptations go. This is about a boy named Tristan who's in love with a girl, and he sees a falling star beyond a wall in his land, and he promises this girl that he loves that he's going to go and get her that falling star and bring it back to her, and he is surprised what he finds when he finds it. So there's a lot of adventurous things happening in here. This is a true adult, newer fairy tale. It's set still in that whimsical fairyland type feeling, but this is a, you know, it's a modern fairy tale as far as when it was written, and I just think it reads and listens exactly like a fairy tale, like exactly what you want. There are actual fairies, there's magic, and there's witches, and there's danger, and there's pirates, and there's adventure, and it's just so fun and so great and so romantic and full of lessons, but not in a pushy way, and I just can't say enough good things about it. You have got to read this, even if you haven't liked a single other Neil Gaiman book, because to me, I feel like you can't throw Neil Gaiman all in the same category, because his books are very different from each other, even though they all have kind of an overly bizarre aspect, although I didn't think this one did. This one is very, very different from, say, Coraline or The Graveyard Book or American Gods or something like that. I loved it. I thought it was absolutely brilliant and flawlessly written, and I gave this one 5 stars. Next, I listened randomly to Stranded by Jeff Probst, narrated by Tebbets. This is actually written by Jeff Probst, who is the host of Survivor, which is now on like its 39th season, something like that. Jeff and I have recently started watching Survivor from the beginning. I watched it a ton when I was younger, and it was like one of my favorite family activities that we did, and Jeff had never seen it before. So we started from season 1, we're on season 8 now. I've still seen everything up to this point, although I've forgotten a ton. We were having so much fun. We're building bonfires outside, and we're like, I don't know, I'm like foraging for wild food, and we're doing all these like really spring summery activities, and I'm gardening and all this stuff. So because of that, I've just been in this really like summery springtime mode, so I wanted to listen to something that was like set on an island, and I found this one actually written by Jeff Probst. It's a middle grade book. It's a 3-hour audiobook. I thought it was adorable and super fun. It kind of reminded me of The Boxcar Children. It's about kids that are around the age of like 8 to 12 that get stranded on a desert island together, and there are 2 sets of step siblings, so they don't necessarily get along, and they kind of have to learn to get along. It's part of a series. I will be listening to the next few in the series. If you just want something fun and easy to listen to that takes like no time at all, then listen to this one. If you're not into middle grade, you might not like it because it's a little bit more on the simple side, but I thought it was actually surprisingly really, really good. I like books set on islands. I like the things that they have to do to figure out the survival aspects. It was really adorable and I'm excited to read the next one. I gave this one 4 stars. Then sorry, I'm skipping around. The only other one I read for Scallywagathon was Beauty Queens by Libba Bray. This is narrated by Libba Bray, so another author narrating her books. Libba Bray is also excellent at narrating her own books, and she does a different job for each one. So like this one is about beauty queens that are a little bit more ditzy and full of themselves, and she's got those good personalities going on, whereas with the Diviners it was like 1920s and she had a 1920s accent, and I think she's fabulous. This one is super quirky. It's about beauty queens that are flying to their contest and the plane crashes and they get on a desert island together, but this format is very, very different. It has like cliff notes and like profiles about each teen dream and little like notes about the world itself. It's like our world, but you know, fictionalized. So there are like all these different TV shows and actors and things that are famous that they'll do little cliff notes when the girls make references to them that kind of mirror our world, like things like the Backstreet Boys and stuff like that for this book, if that makes sense. So while you're reading it, you get these like little cliff note, or the girls will say something and it'll be like side note and it'll be like commercial break. So I think this one was actually meant to be an audiobook. While I did enjoy physically reading it, I enjoyed it more as an audiobook. It's kind of interesting. It can be totally offensive and not very sensitive to certain topics, but then it can kind of show you a lesson on that topic as well. So if it will definitely throw like those stereotypes in there about like beauty queens being like dumb and ditzy, not know how to do things, but then it'll also talk about like racism and sexuality and identity and stuff like that. So it has like a lot of hard-hitting topics like kind of mingled in here, but then it also kind of makes fun of itself. So I don't know what to say about that because you like shouldn't take it seriously, but you can also get something out of it. I don't really enjoy that kind of stuff very much, so I wound up giving this one like, I can't decide between 3.5 and 4 stars. I still don't know if I fully love it just because I don't like certain things about it, but it's really fun and quirky, and there's just like so much adventure-y things that happen, and I really liked the ending, and I like the island setting and the survival things that they have to do. So I will be doing also a survival book recommendation sometime this summer because I read quite a few now and I have a lot to talk about, so stay tuned and look forward to that. But I wound up giving this one, like I said, 3.5, 4 stars. Next up, and the only new release I read / listened to this month, was The Lost Coast by Amy Rose Capetta. I think this one came out March this year, and this was narrated by Sophie, Amoss, and another girl or two, which will be linked right here. This one is about a girl that decides to move to California, or she convinces her mom to move to California in an area called the Lost Coast. I can't remember exactly why. And then she's always known like interesting things about herself, as far as that she connects to people in a weird way, and she finds this group of witches, basically like modern Wiccan witches, and they kind of need her for something. I don't want to give away too much more. I know that's not like a lot. The reason that I wanted to read it is because it had a little bit of that like survival-y aspect, sort of. It just had like that springy, summery vibes because they're outside a lot and they're doing magic with things. It actually kind of gave me Undead Girl Gang vibes. It was definitely more serious and not quite as wacky as that book, but it had similar things as far as like the friendships go and the way the magic went and stuff like that. This book is kind of interesting to me because, again, I loved the vibes, I loved the feelings, I loved them talking about the Lost Coast of California, especially because I'm from California. The cover is absolutely stunning. I did really enjoy it overall. I listened to it while I was gardening and I thought it was great. It's pretty heavy on the romance, and there is a lot of female romance in here, so if you're looking for something like that, this is a great one. Personally, it just didn't hit that 4-star level for me. I enjoyed it. I might read it again in the future just because I liked the vibe as a whole. I thought it was very well written, it was very fluid, and it was beautiful, and I think this is going to be a favorite for a lot of people. It just didn't quite get there for me, but it was just, that's how I am with a lot of contemporaries, because it's definitely more of a contemporary than it is magical. It definitely has like light magical elements to it, and it has a little bit of like a fairy realm aspect. Very, very mild, at least in my opinion. So I'm just not a huge contemporary person, but I did like it quite a bit, and it was great for this time of year, so I gave it 3.5 stars. And then lastly, I listened to Caraval and Legendary. I reread these via audiobook again, and these are both narrated by Rebecca Soler, who remains to this day my favorite audiobook narrator, or at least my favorite female audiobook narrator. She narrates a ton of things, like all of Marissa Meyer's books, these and Undead Girl Gang and a bunch of other things. So I reread these in preparation for finale, but because of the month I had, I didn't make it to finale on time. I also didn't even get it in on overdrive until last week, so I'll be starting that very, very soon. But this is a fantastical, magical, wonderful world, if you're not familiar, that has just swept me away and has become one of my favorite series of all time. It's about a girl named Scarlett and her sister named Tella, and they want to go to this magical event slash kind of carnival slash circus slash thing called Caraval, and you don't know if Caraval is real or not real, and you have to play the game and figure out how to win, and it's really intense, and there's just all these fantastical, beautifully written, magical elements to tie you in and suck you in. There are things that happen that you're just like, oh, that was awesome. The romances are so much fun. They're just fun. They're just fun fantasy books. For me, even though there's quite a bit to the world and there's quite a bit of background and things like that, these are such a fantasy world to dive into if you're new to fantasy. I feel like these are absolutely exceptional and completely must-reads. They're good for adults, they're good for young adults, they're good for kids. I just love them so much. I can't wait for finale, and I'm really nervous about it because I have things that I want to happen and I don't know. So you get one perspective in here and you get a different perspective in here, and I don't know if we're going to get both in finale. I'm not sure, but I loved it. I'm really glad that I reread them because even though it's been just about a year, I forgot quite a bit, and I just think they're great. Also, follow Stephanie Garber on Instagram because she's adorable and really cute and funny, and she always posts really great things and does a lot of giveaways and fun stuff as well. I don't follow a ton of authors on Instagram, but Stephanie Garber is just a must. I find her so adorable, so adorable. Of course, upon rereading, I gave these 5 stars. And that was my May reading. So I hope you guys had a great reading month as well. Let me know if you like audiobooks, if you've listened to any of these, if you want to listen to any of them. I personally love audiobooks, and I'm going to be doing more audiobook content soon in the future, but I post videos every Monday, Wednesday, and sometimes on the weekends. Thank you guys so much for watching. I'll see you guys next time on The Bright Side. Bye!